won't let go, no matter. It's so unusual, it's frightening. You see right through the mess inside me, and you call me out to pull me in. You tell me I can start again, and I don't need to keep on hiding. Come on, sing. I'm fully known. Like the story is over. But if it's not good, God's not done. He's the author and finisher of our faith, and he's not done with you. God's not done with you, even with your broken heart and your wounds and your scars. God's not done with you, even when you're lost in his heart. Yeah, God's not done with you. It's not over, it's only begun. So don't hide, don't run, 'cause I'm fully yours, and loved by you. You won't let go, no matter what I do. No.
Let's turn up in the church, man.
Glory,
This my boy Michael Beardsley, the beast himself, Godzilla incarnate. I think this is a Pentecostal worship team. They're amazing. They're so good. But you gotta know something about them lyrics, what them lyrics mean to Christians, what them lyrics mean to believers. They make a miracle working, promise keeping, light in the darkness, Remind them one more time. Waymaker, miracle worker. Waymaker, miracle worker. Waymaker, miracle worker. Waymaker, miracle worker. Never stop, never stop, never stop, never stop. I burn. Guitar solo, killing. You just lay back, gotta let the guitar solo get off. The guitar solo, yeah, that's perfect. The track still going. Nice.
Things change, nothing will ever. Things change, nothing will ever. Never. When I reached the water, I opened my eyes, and I couldn't believe it. I felt so alive. So many said I did not need it, but of course they lied. With my soul revived, thought I could touch the sky, and it's just what I did, gravity defied.
This channel's nasty. Oh, this is my joint right here. All right, we got one more for you. We got one more for you. y'all. Wow. Amazing. Unbelievable set. When I tell y'all S.J. Thomas pulled up in the church, man. Look, she even put the atheist who puts the fear of God in atheist. And she titled it "An Atheist and a Christian Walk into a Bar" at Pocket Locker 86. She titled it "When an Atheist and a Christian Walk into a Bar." Can't thank you enough, SJ. Can't thank you enough, SJ. All right, y'all, let's load up in the church van. Everybody in the church van, let's go.
Hi, everybody. This is S.J. Thomason, where truth matters at Christian-apologist.com. And today we're going to, an atheist and a Christian are going to walk into a bar. And so I have a very popular atheist with me. His name is Jay, and he goes by Pocket Locker 86. He's got a channel that I've been following now for about, I think, almost 2 weeks. We're going to talk today about the interesting stuff with this whole situation with Nancy, secular rarity. We're going to mention some of the 10-page document that Nancy had brought up and some of the harassment that unfortunately she's been facing and that the community has heaped upon her and heaped upon others who've been defending her. And so one of her biggest defenders is Jay. And so without further ado, I'm just going to let Jay introduce himself and kind of we'll go into how we're interested in this particular topic.
Yeah, hi, my name is Dr. Jay Bundy, and I'm a college professor, and I also, as you mentioned, am a YouTube creator. I teach sociology, intro to sociology, and cultural anthropology at a community college, and then at a larger sort of R1 research university. I'm a professor in the human biology program, which is housed in the Department of Anthropology, and I teach Darwin's Law, which is an evolutionary theory class. I teach Sex and Evolution, which is about how sex is related to evolutionary concepts and gender. And then I also teach a class called The Social Determinants of Health, which is about how race, class, and gender influence your health outcomes, or as I tell my students, the class is about how patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy get people killed. So I know Nancy and Patti, the Apostate Sisters, from their channel. I was always a fan of their channel. They would come kind of hang out in the live chat of my channel from time to time. And then last summer, I was invited to speak at the Ark Encounter protest in Kentucky. And so when I went there, I was able to actually meet Nancy because she was in attendance. Patti wasn't there, but I did meet Nancy. I did meet her husband, and that was my first time really meeting a lot of the people from the online secular atheist space in person. And it was a really positive experience for me, and I felt really close to a lot of these people. And then the Nanocon incident happened a couple weeks later at a different conference, at a different event, and I wasn't there for that. But I guess somewhere, maybe at some portion of the summer, to be honest with you, I don't really remember when, somebody named Bree McCune, who has a channel called Hive Sci, came into our virtual office. A lot of my friends and I, we have virtual offices. We used to host them in Gather. Now they're in Work Adventure, but they're basically like offline little conference rooms. It's like Zoom, but it has like a little video game map. So we use that as kind of our offline gathering place. And I wasn't there at the time, but she came in and was basically saying, "Oh, there's a story going around about something that happened at Nanocon." And again, I wasn't a party to that conversation, but as I understood it, they were told, it didn't really happen. It's a rumor. Something happened with one of the Apostate Sisters, but whatever they saying happened didn't really happen. So, we kind of just let it go. What am I supposed to do with, there's a rumor about something, but we're not sure what it is, but it didn't really happen. So don't, you know what I mean? And then over the next period of time, different people in my friend group, like Kyle, started to hear different details and different stories emerging and starting to say these stories aren't adding up. They're not making any sense. And then by that time I had actually reached out to Patti, because when I met Nancy in Kentucky, we had planned to maybe do a stream together. So Patti and I were talking, and we did a stream together. And then, I reached out to say, hey, I have some female friends and they're survivors of sexual assault. And they're saying that the story about what happened to your sister that's going around isn't making sense, because I didn't know. And I didn't want to just approach Patti and ask her about it. I figured this is something serious and something private. And it's not really my place to, be asking her what happened. But I did think I could say, hey, I have some friends that heard something about what happened to your sister, and they don't think what these people are saying is adding up. So they wanted me to offer support in case there's some other need that these women can meet, supporting her or supporting you or whatever it might be. Again, I don't know. I assume that would be a conversation amongst survivors and friends. But Patti told me the whole story, and has been, consistent with everything that's in Nancy's letter from the beginning. And so I did follow up by putting her in touch with those women, and she told them the same story. And then one of them, named Sumami, decided that we should go live about it because the community doesn't even know that this is happening. And the only thing that is happening in the community is people are running around saying Nancy's lying. And now we've heard from Patti, and we don't think Nancy's lying. So we need to go tell people, hey, Patti's not lying and Nancy's not lying. This really happened. And at the time, we had decided we were gonna talk about maybe what Elliot had done to Nancy. Actually, I don't even know if at that point we were mentioning Elliot's name. I think we were just trying to say about what happened to her. And eventually, people in the chat. This is December 9th. I think this happened. It's on my Pocket Locker 86 channel. If you look at the playlist called This Community's Rotten to the Core, there are 6 key videos that are labeled like 1 out of 6, 2 out of 6, 3 out of 6. So I'm talking about 1 out of 6 if you go watch the playlist on my channel later. But when we did that stream, people were basically saying, well, if there's danger in the community and people are behaving this badly, you need to tell us who they are. So we kind of in real time made a decision to go ahead and mention the people who were doing all of this. And I said, since we were making that change, I said, if they die, they die. And I explained that what I'm saying is if there are social consequences for their behavior being exposed and people saying, hey, here's what this person did, then there are social consequences for their behavior being exposed, and they'll have to live with those social consequences. Now, some of your audience might recognize that phrase, if they die, they die. It's from Rocky. It's a Rocky quote. If he dies, he dies, right? And it's important because people are trying to get me fired for saying that. People are claiming that I'm harassing them, I'm stalking them, and I'm saying death threats to them on my YouTube channel. And I'm going, no, it's a Rocky quote. Definitely. And I played that clip on my channel multiple times of the Rocky quote. And even in the Rocky quote, it's not a death threat. In the Rocky quote, it's about a boxing match. It's about a sporting event. And I don't know if y'all know this, but sporting events, you have to have a license to be a professional boxer. You have to get approved by a commission to be in a professional boxing match. And yes, people have in fact died as a result of being in a boxing match. That's perfectly legal. But in the movie, Rocky gets knocked out or whatever, and they're interviewing the guy that knocked him out, and he's talking about how he doesn't care, and he goes, if he dies, he dies. But these people have such a deep-seated victim complex, right? That Nancy can't be the victim, Patti can't be the victim, there can't be harassment against the whistleblowers. The flying monkeys, the people who throw her under the bus, they were always the victim. So that was how they made themselves the victims there. It was unfair to them that their names got mentioned. And the fact that their names got mentioned and I use a Rocky quote means there's death threats against their life. But anyway, what we did from there was we just started documenting receipts. We started showing receipts of every single person we had mentioned, doing the smear campaign, doing the slut shaming, doing the victim blaming, calling her a liar. And then, for the next few months, I would say, I was coming out with streams about it from time to time and talking about it and trying to get into it. And then things went relatively quiet because we weren't hearing anything new. The community did not respond. There was nobody came to help us. Nobody came to support us. Nobody else started making content about it. So at that point, it kind of just felt like, all right, well, we did what we can, but now there's just a smear campaign against us, right? So as a result of us reporting it on my channel, all three of those other whistleblowers, they had all their wrenches taken from them wherever they were modding channels. They had they lost a lot of their friends. They were kicked out of Discord servers. Patti and I both had upcoming appearances in the community canceled. So we were blacklisted. We were blackballed. We were blacklisted. We were completely cut off from the community. And then at the time, I was working 2 jobs. So I was very busy teaching. As you know, we're getting towards that little end of the semester. So we got a little bit of a break here, SJ, right? Before things get too crazy again.
Exactly.
So that was kind of a lull period. And then, you know, Nancy did catch wind of everything going on, and she noticed how much people weren't believing her sister, and now how much people weren't believing these other whistleblowers, and realizing that the smear campaign intensified when they came forward rather than going away. So that was when she eventually wrote the 10-page notarized letter. She got it notarized. She authorized her sister to talk about it and to discuss it because she wanted it addressed within the community. And then that was a big, huge win for us because now we had her full victim statement and it was notarized because people kept trying to say, you don't have permission to speak for Nancy. Patti's lying. Nancy really doesn't want any accountability. Nancy wanted this all under wraps. Nancy never wanted any of this to come out. Well, you can't say that once she writes a 10-page notarized letter addressed directly to the atheist YouTube community. And so since then, I originally decided that, you know, as we approached sort of the 100 days to go till Nanocon mark or wherever I started, I basically just decided to start streaming about it every day to like maintain like a constant pressure campaign about Nanocon, because I recognize, for instance, I think Nanocon's in 75 days or 76 days or something like that. And I recognize that after that window, we're going to kind of miss our window of opportunity, because after that time is over, they're going to say, well, they just did Nanocon 2026 and it was fine. So why are you talking about Nanocon 2025? Or they'll say, we just did Nanocon and it was fine for 2026 and there isn't another Nanocon for another year. So why are you talking about Nanocon, right? So anybody who's concerned or cares about this story or would like to see justice or accountability, you have to understand campaign logic. You have to understand that this is a campaign season. There is a quote unquote election day. In other words, there's going to be a verdict day. In 76 days, they're either going to have Nanocon or they're not. Now, my prediction is they're going to have Nanocon no matter what anybody says or does. So then the idea is to make that public pressure really count, to make them have to do Nanocon in the face of overwhelming pressure to not do it, to really reveal their character, to show who they are, to show that they don't care, that they never cared, that there will be no accountability, and they don't care what anybody says or does or how anybody says or goes after them. That gravy train is rolling, and that gravy train is going to pull into the station for a payoff. So our goal has been to make as many people aware of this as possible, to put as much pressure legally and responsibly, no harassing, no doxing, no direct confrontation. Do not threaten them. Do not blackmail them. Do not call their employer. Do not directly confront them with accusations of immoral or illegal behavior. Don't do anything that would make this worse, right? But when it comes to safe, appropriate, legal avenues of pressure, letting the sponsors know what's going on, letting the speakers know what's going on, making sure maybe churches and organizations in the local area are aware of what's going on. Maybe making churches and other large Christian content creators aware of these systematic problems in the atheist community by making content about it, by drawing attention to the corrupt organizations that have been participating in this, those larger channels and more influential content creators that have been participating in this. So for us, it got to a point where we were just so frustrated And we realized there were no atheist content creators coming to help us, none, and none of the organizations. And since it became a community-wide cover-up, I think literally out of what I'm going to call creative desperation, we started to talk about, well, what if we reached out to the Christians? Because the larger atheist organizations aren't coming. The larger content creators on our side aren't coming to help. We're never going to get any mainstream media attention or notoriety of this. Apparently, they keep telling us the legal process didn't go anywhere and the internal investigation didn't yield any results. You know, and now nobody even wants to pay attention to this. So who else would even care? Who else would even care that all of this is going on and how terrible it's gotten? And yeah, we started to think maybe Christians care. Christians care. There's a lot of stuff in their churches, in the news about these things. And while atheists like to pretend that Christians don't care about those problematic stories, or they don't care about those controversies within their church, I think that that's short-sighted. I think most Christians do. And they find those things very troubling. So I think maybe they are already in a space where they can recognize that this happens, and they can already recognize how power dynamics play out in this, and how sometimes institutions protect the pastors, they protect the leaders, they protect the business model, right, instead of protecting the people. And so, yeah, I reached out to people like Bread of Life over on Rebekah Davis on her channel, and my friend Michael Beverly reached out to you. So I just want to say to your audience and to you again, thank you. We sincerely reached out to help. We know that this feels like a brand new day on the internet, and nobody knows what to do with the Christians and atheists sort of teaming up to fight the power. But we could not be more happy that you did. And since we are atheists and Christians walking into a bar together, I'm gonna pour myself a drink to say cheers. But but thank you so much. And yeah, that's how I got involved. Thanks for letting me explain that.
I think that's great. And so I want to go back, I'm going to pedal back here a little bit, because I think some of my people who are subscribed to my channel, they might not be aware of what the situation was. So I'm just going to lay out really briefly a few of the things that I think everyone agrees to that happened at this conference. So the thing is, Nancy's a married woman, and she was talking to a person called Secular Rarity, and he's also known as Elliot Martin. And she was talking to him, and she had noticed that he had been drinking, and she was drinking. And so in her 10-page report, she says that she was kind of flirtatious with him, and they ended up sort of walking outside of the venue and over to a stairwell. And something happened at the stairwell where both of them ended up falling down a flight of cement stairs, concrete stairs. And she hit her head, severely hurt herself. And she says that he strangled her. And she says that also caused a ton of bruising. So she was kind of beside herself, didn't know how to deal with this situation. Eventually she walked back into the venue, and she saw a woman called Stacy. And so she told Stacy what had happened to her after being just shocked for a little while. And then she went back to her room where she was rooming with her sister, and her sister Patti was there. And so Patti was sleeping. So when they woke up the next day, she realized she's covered in dark bruises, and she told Patti the whole story too. And so and then Patti convinced her at some point to take photos of herself to prove that she was covered in these bruises and to recount her situation. And so that's what everybody agrees on. Something horrible happened. Now, Nancy also said that the reason she was at the bottom of the stairs was because she was pushed from Secular Rarity down the staircase, and that he apparently ran down and then fell down on top of her at the bottom of the stairs.
Yes.
And so that's the situation. I mean, that's just, I don't think anybody argues with that part of the story. Do you think that's fair enough?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. To be honest, I don't think many people do argue with the story. You can see all the flying monkeys are in your comments here, which is good. I mean, I guess that'll help you get a bump in the algorithm, and people can see them in here doing the victim blaming and harassing and the whistleblowers and throwing everybody under the bus. But yeah, I think for most people, at the end of the day, they're gonna go to the links in my descriptions, and maybe the link of the video that you've been doing. They're going to pull up Nancy's 10-page notarized letter. And that's going to be the story that they go with, unless somebody can demonstrate that some particular aspect of that story is not true. And so far, nobody's been able to do that. Now, you will hear a lot of people talk a lot, but you'll notice very quickly they're always trying to undermine her story by talking about what happened before what happened in the stairwell or after what happened in the stairwell. And then again, they go to what she said and did before NanoCon and what she said and did after NanoCon. But then even in all that effort of she didn't want anybody to talk about it, she just wanted it to go away. She just wanted it to be private. She forgave him. She said he's saved. She said we should keep platforming him. Yeah, she did all of that over the summer. She did all of that over the summer. By September 10th, when she's texting her sister saying, hey, I'm really disappointed that this case didn't go forward. She's literally saying, and I've documented this on my channel multiple times, that she never wants to hear from any of these people again. The same people that are in your chat talking about they were Nancy's friends and they were Nancy's support system and all. She didn't ever want to talk to any of those people again. She said in September, she never wanted to hear from any of them ever again. Now, for what it's worth, the flying monkeys don't want to acknowledge this, but Nancy has thanked me and the other whistleblowers personally on multiple occasions. I'm going to repeat this 3 times because people don't want to hear it. Nancy has thanked me and the other whistleblowers on multiple occasions. I most recently heard from Nancy a few days ago in a voice message where Nancy specifically thanked me, PC, Kyle, Sumami, Trees, Becca, and the other whistleblowers. So they keep wanting to say they don't have Nancy's permission. They don't have Nancy's permission. They don't have Nancy's permission. Oh, we more than have Nancy's permission. We have Nancy's permission, her endorsement, and her explicit gratitude. So they're lying. And then when they go into this thing, they keep trying to say, well, look, before September, she didn't want this to go forward. Before September, we're not talking about that. What we're saying is in December, when we came out to talk about it in December, her sister had her permission to talk about it in December. And her sisters had permission to talk about it since. We have had her permission to talk about it since. And so these flying monkeys, they literally, like, their whole strategy is to keep everybody stuck in a time capsule. To say, look at everything that happened before mid-September. And then to say, well, now that since she cut us all off, once she cut us all off, we started comparing notes. And when we started comparing notes about what she told each of us, she didn't tell each of us the same story. Now, you know how that is, right? Like you might have a class with 50 students in your class, and you have 5 students who didn't come to class that day. And each of them comes and tells you, what did I miss in class that day? And there's going to be certain things you tell all of them. We did this assignment, you did that assignment, right? But some of them might phrase it certainly different. Some might ask you something different. Some might ask you to go into more details. Others might say, oh, I'll go home and read the chapter on my own. You see what I'm saying? So you're not going to have the same exact conversation with all 5 students who missed the class that day. You
remind me of something really quick. I just want to say, because you remind me of when the students say, I missed class. Did I miss anything?
Yeah.
I just completely wasted everybody's time for 2 hours.
Yeah. And so you're not going to be able to have that same exact conversation with everybody. That doesn't mean you're lying to them. It just means maybe you were in a mood to explain it one way, and then a different mood to explain it another way, a little bit more detail for one student, a little bit less detail for another. Maybe one student asked further follow-up questions, but the other, right? But they went and said, oh, well, she didn't tell us all exactly the same thing, so she must be lying. And then they said, oh, well, she cut us off and she won't speak to us anymore. It can't be because she realized we weren't really being the type of friends that she wants or needs in a situation. It can't be because maybe her husband did help her realize, hey, these people haven't been looking out for your best interest. No, it has to be her husband pulled her away because he's controlling and he's the dangerous one and he's the one she's really afraid of. And now that he pulled her away from us, that's why she won't talk to us anymore. And now she's only coming out saying this happened because she's trying to save her marriage. She's trying to save her marriage, and she's trying to avoid embarrassing her sister because her sister wanted revenge the whole time. So now that she needs to say this happened to save her marriage, and she needs to say that this happened to make her sister not look bad, that's why she's dropping the 10-page notarized letter. So we've heard everything from Patti altered and doctored the letter is fake, the letter is really Patti's testimony that Nancy was forced to sign off on. Well, still, we don't have her permission to talk about it. Or they'll just say, well, fine, she wrote the letter, but did she give anybody permission to talk about it? Well, where's she at now? Why didn't she come? Right. So she always has to do more. She has to write a letter. She has to come interview them. She has to personally call each and every one of the flying monkeys. She has to say, Ascalon, my sister and the whistleblowers have my permission to tell my story. Misinterpretations. My sister and the whistleblowers have the permission to tell my story. Titan Uranus official. My sister and the whistleblowers have permission to tell my story. AJ from Ways to Human. My sister and do you see what I'm saying? Like that, until that happens, until she's willing to tell each and every person in the atheist YouTube community, each and every detail that she is authorized to be shared, and each and every person she is authorized to again, eventually you realize you're just dealing with flying monkeys who are piling on, who are victim blaming, who are slut shaming, and we just ignore them and let them do what they do. We hit up our Christian friends and we keep working on how we're going to make our community safer, and we ignore the riffraff.
I think it's great. I think it's a noble thing, because it's an unpopular opinion to go against this community. The people who have been basically calling it a drama instead of a trauma, which is
like Matt Dillahunty at the line. Yeah,
it's been traumatic for her. And so
absolutely.
And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, when I read her thing, I noticed that she said she had people say, why didn't she report it or want to report it right away to the officials at the conference? And it was because she was there was certain elements of it, because she's married, that this she's not terribly comfortable with getting this whole thing exposed. And she had some prior experience with cops not really taking her allegations of sexual assault seriously.
Yeah, and so, that's sad, right?
Yeah, it's terrible. So, I mean, the poor woman has gone through a lot. And I think the very least people can do is acknowledge the situation as pretty horrific and ensure that there's some policing at the next conference, if there is one. Should I call it conference? Conference, yeah. Convention.
Yeah, yeah. I just call it a con. It's a scam. I just call it a con. It's a con.
Do you know who's in charge? Like, who are the Nanocon people who put it all together?
I think it's changing. I think it's a rotating cast. I'm not quite sure. I know, for instance, he seemed really instrumental. Elliot Martin seemed really instrumental last year in planning it and hosting it. No worries. Maybe you have guests. But I don't know. I feel like there's always been a lack of transparency with who exactly their leadership is and what the structure is, and then it changes. So, for instance, the internal investigator Elliot Cantor said that he had previously been on the board, but then I guess last year he wasn't on the board because he was the internal investigator. But then I guess this year he's on the board again. So then he said he has a friend doing the internal investigation to avoid the appearance of impropriety. But yeah, if you here, I can maybe I can share my screen.
Yeah, because I'm just wondering who benefits from this conference continuing. Like,
totally,
somebody's benefiting financially. So
let me show you their page.
And let me ask, I see one of the persons in the chat also commented on my video from yesterday, and it's Ways to Human, and I think that's AJ.
That's AJ, yeah.
And so AJ, maybe AJ knows, it would like to put out in the chat who the people are. I wouldn't think it'd be a secret who these people are running this.
AJ's the queen of the cover up. She's the one passing around the 35-page notarized smear campaign, which again, it's all time capsule, right? It's all look at August, look at September, look at August, look at September, look at August, look at September. Nah, we're not with that. Let's see. So if I go here to the Nanocon page, right? So you can see here are the featured speakers. Matt Dillahunty, Promise Backlund, him and Meta, the Friendly Atheist, Monte Mater, Fish Stark, Forrest Valkai, Candace Gorham, I believe she's from American Humanist Association, Glenda Jordan, Kevin Crow, Mandisa Thomas from Black Nonbelievers, Gail Jordan, she's the long-term partner of the internal investigation guy, David Teachout, Sam McGuire, Will Judy, Jake V, and there's AJ Ruley, right? So AJ's trying to pretend there's no conflict of interest when she's literally running around leading the smear campaign against Nancy, while she at the same time is controlling the content on the Nanocon channel and is a featured speaker at Nanocon. I mean, the conflicts of interest and the corruption are, but here you go. Here's your home. There's your tickets. So you can buy your tickets. All right. Venue and lodging. Again, more sponsors on like every page. Speakers, more sponsors every page. Workshops and panels. Again, sponsors every page. Very interesting. Sponsors.
I'm going to let my video go off for just 1 second so I can just open this door for my dog.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I'm just trying to show people. Yeah, I don't see it. Where's this? There's the schedule. Now there's a code of conduct. I don't know if there was one. I don't think there was one last year, but it's, you know, again, it's just empty words. Who cares about? And again, what an insufficient code of conduct. What a joke. What a joke. Here's the about us. There's our story. What we do, how it all gets paid for. So where I don't where's the staff, where's the officers, where's the board, and then we got to pass Nanocon archive. But interestingly, there's a 2025 archive, a 2022 archive. Where's the rest of it? There's also a lack of financial transparency in a lot of these atheist organizations that people need to really start looking into. There is a lack of financial transparency in these atheist organizations that people really need to start looking into. I repeat, Christians. This is your atheist friends asking for your help. There are financial improprieties in how these atheist organizations are operated. Please help us find out about the lack of financial transparency. So as you can see, right, there's just no there's no way to know. Nobody knows. And then if you go say, well, nobody knows who the leadership at Nanocon is, they'll treat you like you're fear mongering or something. But you know, again, it's very clear that they don't really seem to care.
I think I see a question here that's kind of an interesting question. Because I've never obviously been to an atheist conference. What do they teach? Like, how do or do people basically share their experiences?
Honestly, it's just as far as I understand it, it's just an extension of the YouTube culture. So you can look at the workshops and panels. Former conspiracy theorist reveals the secret truth to breaking people out. Okay. The meaning crisis, capitalism, conspiracy, and Christianity. How to run for office. Yikes. Lanternism, a journey of wonder and reflection beyond belief. Meaning without belief, building meaning, purpose, and connection as a skeptic. How to do your homework as an influencer. This is probably just a hit piece against us for them not liking us. So I'm sure they'll be talking about how people like us are terrible at doing our homework. Disability inclusion for a kinder, smarter, godless world. Interesting. Literally, as these people like run around like smearing neurodivergent people, they're going to talk about how to be more inclusive. Jesus. Spirituality is natural, not supernatural. Oh, okay. All right. What will we do with all the churches? A musical performance and sharing experience. To be honest, it's amateur hour. It's a bunch of people with very little, they don't have any qualifications in anything, talking about shit they don't have any qualifications in. The science of sex, gender, and culture wars. Again, this dude's supposed to be a medical doctor. I think this dude's a speaker. Like you don't have to be a professor. You don't got to have a PhD. You don't got to have done research. You don't have to have university teaching experience. None of that. You just science communication 101. I guess since Faraz Valkai does science and he's a popular YouTuber, you know, why bring in a science professor? Why bring in a science educator? Let's instead have a grad student do it. David Teachout, religious trauma, humanism as a solution. Again, y'all are throwing women down the stairs and covering up sex crimes, but they're going to talk to you about how humanism is a solution to your religious trauma. And then play to save the world. I wouldn't be buying the ticket, SJ. I don't know about you, SJ, but it don't seem like they talking about a whole lot That's gonna
No.
be doing a whole lot for me. I don't know.
I'm not going. I'm
I
not
don't
going.
know. I don't know. Have fun at the next NanoCon.
Yeah, there's no way. I've been to a Christian I was at this I was at a Christian version of that down in Sarasota a couple of years ago. It was in March. And I remember I saw I don't know if you know some of these people, but like Michael Jones, Inspiring Philosophy was there, Frank Turek. It was all Protestants, and I actually had converted to Catholicism, and so I wasn't really fitting in there so well because it was definitely a Protestant conference, but it was also What Do You Meme? I don't know if you know that guy.
Oh yeah.
Who else? There were a bunch of people. David Wood.
I know who that is. Yeah.
What's that one guy called? There's another guy who's there. I'll think of who he was, but it was funny because they were all giving speeches, kind of like the counterpart, the something, how to dig into the Bible, how to talk to atheists. It's basically the same kind of thing that you see from the other angle. So it's kind of funny. I think I think humans just want a community, and you want to be around other people that have like
SJ,
mind.
let me say this for my money. And again, I haven't gone to these NanoCons, and like I said, I was at the Ark Encounter protest a couple weeks before, but I've been to Christian conferences, especially like when I was playing drums at a church as a worship leader. I went to a big conference for like young adults in Iowa, I think it was. I had so much fun. It was crazy. Like, first off, they had really good workshops that were about relationships, learning, like lots of different things, but everything was like positive. Everything was instructional, and everybody really did feel like qualified to say what they were saying. And there was just a lot of community. And then there was a lot of the concerts every night, right? Everybody's going crazy. Like, I had a great time. I would sign up to go to another Christian youth mega festival before NanoCon every day and twice on Sunday. I'd rather be at a Christian conference any day of the year. I'll be way safer too. Way safer.
That's you remind me now. Tell me how come. So you're an atheist now, but you used to be playing in the band at a church.
Oh, yeah.
So how did this all, like, how did you move from being a Christian to an atheist, or were you always an atheist?
No, I was always a Christian. I come from like 5 generations of ministers. My mom's side, Pentecostal ministers. My dad is a African Methodist Episcopal. My dad's not really religious, but he did take me to his church once in a while. And my grandfather's a bishop. My great-grandfather was a bishop. He passed.
Was it a bishop in the Catholic Church or in the Methodist Church?
Pentecostal church.
Pentecostal Church. Okay.
Yeah. And then
that's pretty high up.
It is. And then I went to Catholic school my whole life. So I was in a non-denominational church with mom. So that's one flavor. I'm going to Catholic school and like Jesuit schools primarily. So that's another flavor. Then I went, then my dad did the AME church. That's another flavor. My grandparents come out of the Pentecostal church. That's another flavor. So growing up, I just consider myself Christian because I had little pieces of all of that in my Christianity. And then again, I had sort of my own faith from studying and learning and putting things together. So I always felt like I didn't quite believe the same as any of those groups. But my beliefs were a combinations of influences from all of those groups, and then sort of where I guess on my own would resolve whatever differences to come up with what I would have believed or told you at the time. And so during grad school is when I wouldn't say it was a very gradual process. I have a hard time telling my deconstruction story. Everybody likes to tell their deconstruction story, and it's all like this neat package with like dates and memories and breaking points. And mine isn't like that. It's like this long, arduous journey of deconstruction, and it's just one little piece at a time. And I never really did get to a point where I wanted to stop identifying as a Christian. I wanted to identify as an atheist Christian or a Christian atheist, because I wanted people to understand that I don't believe the fundamental claims. And I would say that maybe that's a professional hazard. Maybe I'm a scientist, I'm becoming a science educator, I have learned this sort of naturalistic worldview. And then maybe now, as a result of being a scientist and really taking the scientific method super seriously, I just can't get myself to the supernatural the way I used to. And that's what it felt like me. But I was still a Christian. I just was a Christian who didn't believe in the supernatural. I was a Christian who believed the stories, like I believed evolution.
Mhm.
So if you were to say, well, what about Genesis? I would say, well, Genesis is the narrative. Genesis is the creation myth of the Christian tradition. That's what I was taught in Catholic school. That's what our director of religious formation told us. You know, the atheists be like, well, the Christian Genesis narrative can't be true because it's borrowed from the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's not even original. It has all these other influences in it. And I was like, I don't know why that would make you not a Christian. I was taught that in Catholic school by the priest in charge of religious formation for the entire school. So if they didn't think it was a problem to tell us that that it was the creation myth and it's borrowed from earlier myths, I don't understand what the problem is. So then when we learned about evolution, even in theology class, we were taught, yeah, Genesis, that's the creation myth. What you learn over there in biology class, that's the how it happened. And then we go to biology class and be like, what you learn here in biology class is the how it happened. And what you learn over there in theology class is our mythology. Now, again, a lot of Christians, they don't really get down like that, but that's how I was taught in school. So I didn't ever see a problem between creationism and evolution. Never. And so even as a grad student of evolutionary biology, I was still a Christian. I'm studying evolution. Evolution is how we get the origin of species. As a Christian, I'm real interested in how God did this whole origin of species thing. I know Darwin wrote the book, but when Darwin wrote what he was describing, he was just describing the process. So yeah, now I'm here to understand the process, right? So that really wasn't a conflict for me. And so then when I stopped identifying as a Christian, that was really related to there was a creationist group that like attacked all my mentors on campus. And I didn't like that. I felt like that wasn't fair. Like, you're calling out my mentors. My mentor is a good scientist, and these are younger creationists just trying to beat their chest, and they're insulting my mentors, and that I didn't like that. But prior to that, you know, I was trying to tell people I'm an atheist Christian or a Christian atheist, but atheists kept telling me I couldn't say that. Atheists kept saying, well, if you don't believe the fundamental claims of Christianity, you can't claim to be a Christian. And then Christians kept telling me that. Well, if you don't believe the fundamental claims of Christianity, you can't be a Christian. So eventually I end up with a church moving into the neighborhood. So they moved across the street from me. So they because I lived across the street from a middle school, and they started hosting their church plant in the middle school because they had just all moved here from Iowa. So they didn't have a building yet.
Which denomination? Which?
Oh, that's a great question. I always called them corporate Christians. I think they're loosely kind of Baptist, but I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the evangelical churches are kind of getting away from denominational labels, and they have their own networks, right? And so their model, if you ever look into the Salt Company, maybe some of your viewers are familiar with the Salt Company because they're everywhere. This is like a Salt Company church. But what that model is they go all over the country and all over the world, really, and then deliberately they want to plant churches in major university contexts. And so they want to be in that college town, right, that's connected to a major university. And then what they do is they plant a local church in that town, and that church can be called whatever they come up with. But then the college ministry is always called the Salt Company. Okay. The same way you had Cru, right, which was Campus Crusades, and you had Campus Crusades chapters everywhere, right? So this is similar to that, but their model is, instead of it being Campus Crusade with chapters everywhere, because then they feel like that's just chapters of a student club, their thing is they want these Salt Company college ministries everywhere, not student group, but an actual full-blown college ministry. And then that college ministry is supported by a local church in that town. So anyway, they move into this middle school across the street from my house. So I do what I normally do with churches. I'm just walking in to see who's here, see what y'all are about, see if y'all need a sound guy or a drummer. And so I go in, I meet the people, I sit through their service, I start talking to them, I end up meeting the people in leadership. Turns out they're looking for a drummer. So they sent me their songs, a few of their songs. I learned them. The worship minister came to my place because I already had my drum set up. So he came to my place. I played the songs for him. He was like, you got it. Let's do it. And yeah, and then we was off. And I loved it. I loved it because, you know, it was a growing church. They were super hardcore. A lot of them had moved. Like I said, they had moved from Iowa or different parts of the country to plant this church. And you got to remember, there's a combination of like maybe some older couples. Imagine an older couple that's either retired or close to retirement, made a lot of good money, you know, own beautiful homes and things like that, right? So their part of the story is beautiful because they're saying, hey, this young minister, he's striking out on his own. He's going to a new part of the country. He's going to try to start a local church, and it's going to be connected to a college ministry. But he going out there with nothing. He going out there with hope, prayer, and whoever else he can convince to give it a shot with them. So they were willing to like sell their homes, move to this different part of the country, buy a new home so that their home could be used to support this ministry. So that if there's maybe a younger couple of professionals that they didn't get to sell their house in time, well, they could stay with this older couple while they're house shopping. They could stay with this older couple while they're getting their jobs together. A lot of the students that came, they're fresh out of college. So they just graduated. They ain't got no place. They ain't got no job. They ain't got no nothing, but they want to come plant this church. So they're willing with nothing. They ain't got nothing but a backpack, whatever little money mom and dad gave them. And boom, they moving across the country. They ain't got a job. They ain't got no internships lined up, none of that, right? But they going to all support each other. So they living together. They're finding housing for each other. They're helping each other find jobs. They're helping each other get back in school. Whatever it needs to do, they're doing it. They're doing it. And they done all packed up and moved to different parts of the country to do it. And so then now they're trying to build up this college ministry. And I love that because I work at the university. I'm a grad student. I be teaching. So this gives me a whole different outlook on life with students. Now I got students, you know, waving to me on campus, stopping me on campus, talking to me because I'm the drummer at their church now. I'm going on retreats and conferences and things like that. And I'm getting to spend all this time with students at the university I work at that I would have never got to in the classroom. So I'm loving that aspect of it too. And then they played very professional, like professional worship teams. You know, they play to a click track. There's a lighting team. There's video elements. Sometimes there's props and show control. So you have to kind of be able to play in a very professional setting, the same demands that you would have playing for like a touring artist or like a major artist. So that ministry really helped me because it allowed me to have certain skills, for instance, like playing the click tracks and firing the click tracks and really kind of controlling the show behind the scenes from the drums and learning how to work with different musicians to get them prepared to play under those types of pressures and being able to invest in younger musicians to get their live playing skills up. So I absolutely loved it. And then I was part of the community. So I was at everything. I was part of a connection group. Like I was an atheist, but I'm not just in church on Sunday. I'm at Bible study every Monday.
Really?
Every Monday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because
please.
I'm thinking about your background, and it's kind of similar to mine in a way, because I went to Catholic grade school and Catholic my freshman year of high school, and it was an all-girls Catholic freshman year of high school. I did not like that, so I ended up transferring to a public school. But I was a kind of a wishy-washy Catholic after that, especially through college. And then when I was in my 20s, I started getting really mad at the Catholic Church because they weren't, just like what you mentioned, when there's something going on, and we knew there was something going on with some of these priests and the way they were, doing some horrible things. And it seemed like there was a big cover-up going on, and there's still somewhat of a cover-up in some places, which is horrible. And so I left it, and then I ended up marrying in the Lutheran Church, and then I was a Baptist for 10 years or 11 years, I guess it was. And then I studied and made my way back to the Catholic Church. But the reason I'm asking this is because there's something about the Catholic education I had growing up that it was good education in the secular way, like what I learned in the content, but I felt like I never looked into Jesus' resurrection. They didn't talk about the stuff that I find interesting today and what brought me back to Christianity in the Catholic school. It's almost like it was I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. What was your take on, because the reason that you called yourself an atheist or a Christian atheist, and you have all these different denominations and experience, but yet like, had you ever really dug, you said you did the Bible study, but how, I'm just wondering, when you're looking at that, do you think, hey, I wonder if this is like, should I look up information on the resurrection, any of that kind of thing?
Yeah. So that was one of the things that I think became more interesting to me as an atheist, was when I was a Christian, I was surrounded by all this religious belief, but we never talked about anything. Like to this day, like my grandparents are the most religious people I can imagine. I've never heard them talk about what they believe. It's literally just they believe the Bible. I think they're biblical literalists. I think they're younger creationists. I think they believe in Adam and Eve and the apple and the right. But they never talked about it. We never had conversations like, well, you know, some Christians think the earth is actually really old. Some Christians even think the earth is as old as scientists claim the earth is old. But others just believe God created the universe. Right? To them, it was just you believe the Bible, so you never talked about it. Right? But Catholic school, what I loved about being in Catholic schools, we had theology classes. I was reading I and Now by Martin Buber. I still remember that book. That book changed my life because it gave me this other orientation. It was telling me Christianity is about I and Now. Christianity is all about what are you doing for that other person over there. Your whole worldview is about what you want for you and what God is doing for you. God ain't saying you here for you. God's saying you here because he got some stuff he needs you to be doing in the other lives of other people. I'm in high school like, have I been Christianing wrong the whole time? Right? You know what I mean? Like, so I loved that. I love the fact that our director of religious formation used to draw us the maps because he knew it so well. He would be breaking down the biblical stories for us, and then he would go over here and he would draw the map. He'd be like, yeah, but you got to remember this group, they're moving from over here, and then it's taking them 40 years and they're coming over here. But the time they got over here, the language had changed. And he'd be like, well, see, over here, they were using these type of words. And then by the time they got over here, they're using, right? So we were all in it. And then I would get into these evangelical churches and stuff as a young adult and throughout my time in college. And it was back to the other thing. It was back to we just worship, we just praise, we just believe, right? And I felt so empty. So what I loved about this church I was playing as an atheist was when I would go to the Bible studies, I finally got to have those conversations. Well, I got to say, like, who here thinks that, you know, it happened this way, or who thinks it happened that way? Because usually those conversations, they're follow up on whatever the sermon is. And again, the sermon is not usually about the historicity of Jesus or the accuracy of Genesis. But my point is I finally did find myself in a group of Christian people where I could ask meaningful questions about what they believed and like get meaningful answers. And then I was able to have those conversations to understand some of my Christian friends, yes, they believe wholeheartedly in a bodily resurrection, the way you imagine when you say Christianity to most people, right? But other people had different interpretations. Maybe they had different interpretations about whether or not it even really mattered. Like that was my thing. My thing when I was a Christian was saying, well, what if Jesus didn't rise from the dead? Should I not be a Christian? Does that get rid of Jesus's message? Wasn't part of the reason I'm a Christian following his message. I get it. If I'm only supposed to be following the message because he's God and he can do miracles. But if I'm saying it's really about his word, then does him not being a magic person who could rise out of the dead like a zombie undermine his word? Now, I'm not here to say one way or the other. Again, I'm not a Christian, but I can recognize that there's actually a huge diversity of thought. And then I could tell some of them, hey, early in my life when I was young, I believed in the bodily 3-day resurrection. But as a scientist who no longer believed in any sort of resurrection or in any sort of miracles, I still found myself to be a Christian. Well, how could you be a Christian? Well, I thought maybe the resurrection was a spiritual concept. Maybe it was about we die to ourselves, and then we have to have our 3 days. And our 3 days is when we're sitting out of our own lives, reflecting on what's happened and where we want to go. And then our resurrection is when we become a new being and we re-enter in our own lives in a new way, doing something different. Again, is that approved, church stamped approved Christian doctrine? Probably not. Probably not. But is it totally out of the complete spectrum of Christian thought? Also probably not. There are people like Bishop Spong, right, who advocated for a theology, a Christianity beyond theism, a Christianity beyond the physical resurrection. Again, that's not something a lot of Christians are going to sign up for. But again, I teach students in my book about various Christian thought that Shelby Spong is one of the bishops mentioned in our textbook. And I pull his theology up in front of my students and show them, like, there are Christians who don't believe in the traditional theistic God, or don't believe in the traditional resurrection, or they don't believe in the resurrection. But in their church, they're still bishops.
I got to ask you more about that, because because I'm thinking about when I came back to Christianity, because I never really left Christianity. I always felt like there was a God, there's some sort of divine being that created this world, but I wasn't sure about his form. And so I was studying all of these Eastern faiths and doing all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that really opened my eyes was when I read C.S. Lewis and I looked at his trilemma. Have you ever heard of that? A man who's merely a man.
Remind me, just because I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's in his Mere Christianity, and I was a pastor on a plane told me to read it, and so it was like a man who was merely a man and said the types of things that Jesus said would not be a mere moral teacher. He would either be a liar, a lunatic, or the Lord. You have to ask yourself, is he a liar? Is he a lunatic? Or is he the Lord? And because he did miracles, he cured people, he showed a lot of love, and he said, I am the Son of Man and all the stuff. I'm the bread of life. But so that was something that, to me, it was like when I read that, the scales fell off my eyes. I had like that Paul experience. It was so crazy. But I'm also thinking what you're talking about, I think, is kind of like some of the Gnostic ideas that came out of the early centuries, when you had people looking at, they were trying to figure out Jesus' form, and they were trying to figure out how to reconcile if he's fully divine and fully human. And there are all these different beliefs about him. And it kind of, I think your background is extremely interesting, because somehow do you have multiple PhDs, or how do you?
Yeah. So I have a dual PhD, and the way it works, it's kind of like being a double major in college, right? Where, you go to college once, but you fulfill all the requirements of the engineering program and the mathematics program. And so, when you graduate, you can say you have a degree in engineering and a degree in mathematics. So what happens at the PhD level is you are admitted to the PhD program, usually in a particular program within a particular college. So for me, I was in the zoology program, which is now called integrative biology. They changed the name while I was in the program, and that was in the College of Natural Sciences. And then they had a dual PhD program called Ecology, Evolutionary Biology, and Behavior. So EEBB, Ecology, Evolutionary Biology, and then the last B is Behavior. They've shortened that to Ecology, Evolution, and Behavior, so just EEB, because again, universities are always restructuring and changing the names of things. So the idea is like your home department is, in my case, zoology, but I really wasn't a zoologist. I studied humans as an anthropologist. They are animals, but a lot of people don't consider them animals. I worked with microbes like E. coli a little bit. They're definitely not animals. And I work with digital organisms primarily, and they are also definitely not animals. So I was one of those people whose zoology really wasn't a great fit for what I do. There are other people who work with plants. It's not a great fit for what they do. So you change the name of the department to integrative biology because it's a better reflection of the actual work that we do. Then the ecology, evolutionary biology, and behavior piece is I'm an evolutionary biologist. So it's very important to me to not just get a credential that says, oh, I have a PhD in biology. My specialty is evolutionary biology. So I want that piece that says I'm an evolutionary biologist. And further, most of my questions are related to ecology. And so EEB is a special subfield of biology. Ecology and evolution and behavior people, we ask unique questions using unique systems that often sit outside what other biologists do. So EEB people is a unique sub-community of biologists. So that's why I wanted to be in that dual PhD program. And then people think that we're misrepresenting it when we say we have a dual PhD. They're acting as though I'm saying, I went to grad school twice and I wrote 2 separate dissertations 10 years apart and I got a PhD twice. And then they act like I'm misrepresenting it. I'm not misrepresenting it. It's called a dual PhD program. You have to apply for it. You have to be accepted into it. Then all of your courses, you have to meet the course requirements of both programs. You have to do research that fits into the research spectrum of both programs. And you have to write a dissertation that meets the dissertation requirements for both programs. And so then they tell you, we call it checking the box. Hey, we want you in this program. When you finish this program, don't let anybody forget that you have a dual PhD, because it's a meaningful credential that says something about your interdisciplinary training. And so in other words, these programs these programs exist to distinguish the people who complete them from other PhDs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be honest with you, if a white scholar was in this YouTube space talking about their dual PhD, it'd be rounds of applause. Oh my God, they're amazing. Oh, it's so wonderful. When I say I have a dual PhD, I'm constantly scrutinized. He's lying. He's fabricating it. He's trying to make himself seem like he's the biggest genius to ever live. He's misrepresenting it. No, I'm just telling you the reality. The reality is I have a dual PhD. If you feel some type of way and it makes you feel better to say, well, he only wrote one dissertation. I agree. I only wrote one dissertation. So if it makes you feel better to just hold it to that, then you could do that. Now, if you want to say I went to grad school twice, I did go to grad school twice. I went to Penn State to get a master's in biological anthropology. And yes, it was at the time considered the top ranked anthropology department in the country. Again, that's not something I made up. That's something they told me. Right?
Yeah. No, Penn State's an amazing school.
Yeah.
I gotta say, because I have a PhD that's in business. It's called, the official title is, it's in business administration with specializations in international management and human resource management. And so that was like, again, just like you did. I also took 5 years to get through the program, which was kind of annoying. I wanted to get through in 4 years. But I had two kids in the middle of the program, so that was a little bit of a delay on things. But
wait, which program were you in at the time?
It's a PhD in business from Florida Atlantic University. So it's a PhD in business administration with specializations in international management and human resource management.
So your education isn't you don't have, you didn't do like the apologetics in college?
No, I did none of that. No, not
SJ,
at all.
they be playing
No
about your name, SJ. SJ, I think people out here playing about your name, SJ. SJ, I think they treat you like you just like a professional preacher. You got a PhD in regular stuff.
Yeah, business.
Regular stuff.
Yeah, just regular
stuff. SJ, they be playing about your name. SJ, we gotta put some more respect on your name out here. We gotta put some more respect on SJ Thomas's name out here.
It's crazy. I got to say to you too, because I've had, now as we go with this chat on the side chat, I kind of keep my eyes on a little bit going back and forth. People are just kind of, just heaping a lot of abuse. And I guess how did you get to call people, or where did this flying monkey thing come from?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, they're out here. I try to tell my students this. I tell my students, if you don't have any ops, you don't have any motion, right? So many people want to move through life without resistance. If you're moving through life without resistance, you ain't changing nothing. You ain't influencing nothing. You're not shaking anything up. You're not threatening anything. Like, everybody's comfortable around you because you have no edge. You're not dangerous. When you're making a difference in the world, when you're trying to fight the difficult fights, when you're trying to fight the power, when you're trying to make positive change, the hate's gonna come. So I look forward to the hate. I receive it. I welcome it, because it reminds me that I'm doing enough that is really upsetting people. I'm doing enough that is really upsetting people. And I think that's a good thing. I don't anticipate moving through life without resistance. All right, so flying monkeys, this is a psychological concept. Flying monkeys are individuals recruited by a narcissist or abuser to act on their behalf, often engaging in bullying. Actually, you know what? Can we put it on the screen real quick? Just because, people like to see these things, and it's this sort of thing where, like, if you don't show it, then they'll say you're.
I do see a lot of your friends are in the, I'm saying friends kind of facetiously. There's some people in the chat who have come from the atheist point of view that I haven't seen in a long time. Like Caitlin Chloe is in there. I have not seen her in ages.
So that is Godless Engineer's wife, Casey.
Yeah.
So she's going at it now, because I keep calling them Godfather and Godmother Engineer. But again, people are telling me everybody's afraid of John and Casey Gleason. People are telling us they can't speak out against the Gleasons. And then we see them getting the payoff for the next conference, Rocket City Reason. KC was somebody who's sitting around saying that there's video evidence that Nancy is lying. So that's just, that's just the cope that they have. But flying monkeys are individuals recruited by a narcissist or abuser, right? Doesn't have to, you don't have to have a clinical diagnosis of narcissist. We can just know that they're an abuser. So flying monkeys are individuals recruited by an abuser to act on their behalf, often engaging in bullying, spreading gossip, or manipulating the victim to maintain the narcissist's control. This term, derived from the Wizard of Oz, refers to pawns who help abusers, typically through stalking, gaslighting, or isolating the target, allowing the manipulator to stay anonymous and avoid accountability. Now, to be honest, I do not think the term comes from the Wizard of Oz, because I've seen a bunch of content from the guy who claims to have come up with the concept, and he said he wasn't basing it in the Wizard of Oz, but that has been sort of the imagery that has been used. So it's sort of comes from the Wizard of Oz, according to
weren't there
lore.
monkeys that flew out of the Wizard of Oz, like they were flying around in the sky?
Yes. So that's where people think it comes from. The term doesn't really come from that, but it doesn't matter, right? Because that's just the lore of the term flying monkeys. But the phenomena is this being these individuals who bully, spread gossip, or manipulate the victim on behalf of the narcissist. And so their common behavior is information gathering, that's spying on the target and reporting back to the narcissist. So we've plenty of documentation of that. Smear campaigns, right? Spreading rumors or false narratives to damage the victim's reputation. We've seen plenty of that. Quote, pleading the case, pressuring the victim to reconnect with or forgive the abuser. We've seen plenty of that, right? And then gaslighting, reinforcing the narcissist's false version of events, making the victim doubt their reality. And so the psychology is deception and manipulation, fear and codependence, desire for drama, narcissistic traits like a lack of empathy and desire for power, and the rescuer role. They wrongly believe they are defending a victim, often seeing the true target as the aggressor, right? And that's what you see. These people think Nancy's really the bad person, Elliot is really the innocent victim. So they're all over the place trying to defend him. Now, let me show you something else.
I can't, in all honesty, I can't understand why. And I'm seeing some of the stuff that's said around Nancy in the chat, and I don't understand. I mean, we know something bad happened. Like, everybody knows something bad happened. Nobody's denying something bad happened. And I say, if you want to give the benefit of the doubt in some cases to one person or another person, but going around and calling, like, I don't see you saying anything about Elliot. You didn't really say, Elliot. I haven't heard you call him any names or anything like that.
Oh, I do. I call him names. I call him Elliot. But again, I do pro wrestling style content on my channel. I call it word wrestling entertainment, right? Because the same way you have world wrestling entertainment, it's like on internet we're wrestling with words. So yeah, I call him Elliot the Tennessee Strangler Martin, because I think that's a fun wrestling name. But no, to your point, I'm not leading smear campaigns against these people. I provide documentation of their bad behavior. Speaking of that, so let me clear this up again. I misspoke on a stream. Arden Hart is not a dark romance author. Arden Hart is also not an OnlyFans model. You can see here, Arden Hart used to be an OnlyFans model, but she is no longer an OnlyFans model. The page is gone. I have to correct that because I messed those facts up on a previous stream. I made an entire stream correcting it. I've corrected it now over 10 times on air, but I don't want people to come to SJ's channel and say I'm spreading misinformation about these people on SJ's channel. So I'm going to say here again on SJ's channel, Arden Hart is not a dark romance author, and Arden Hart is no longer an OnlyFans model. Okay, here we go. Here's Bree McCune from Hiveside. Ben and I talked. That's Dr. Ben. That is Dr. Ben from the line. She says, Ben and I talked that night before any accusations at all came forward. He told me that Elliot and Nancy were super wasted. Notice Elliot and Nancy are super wasted. Later, we'll get stories that Elliot was super wasted and Nancy was sober. So Nancy was taking advantage of Elliot. But here, Bree is saying that Dr. Ben, who she lived with at the time, told her that Elliot and Nancy were super wasted, making out and heavy petting in the common area and making everyone uncomfortable. Now, again, is that victim blaming and slut shaming? What does them making out and heavy petting in the common area, making everyone uncomfortable, have anything to do with what happened in that stairwell? Oh, if your answer was absolutely nothing because it happened beforehand, congratulations, you're correct. So they got up to go to the room, and Elliot talked to Ben about whether it was a good idea or not. Now, remember, this is another claim that Nancy wanted to take Elliot back to her room. But remember, she was staying in that room with her sister Patti and her sister Patti's daughter. So this is a claim that she was going to go back to the room and have sex with Elliot in front of her sister and her sister's daughter. So Elliot talks to Dr. Ben. Again, that's Dr. Ben from the line, about whether it was a good idea or not. Dr. Ben says it was not before they left together. So now think about our training, right? I get training that says if I see something like this, I need to intervene. You, SJ, probably as a faculty member, also get training that says you see something like this go down, everybody's uncomfortable, you're worried about too much intoxication, this looks like an unsafe situation, everybody's feeling such a bad idea. Yeah, you need to distract one of those people. You need to get one of them to a different room. You need to create a new social activity and say, hey, Elliot, I heard there's a meeting over there for people who are organizing tomorrow's talks. Hey, Nancy, I don't know what's going on, but somebody just said Patti needs you in the room right now. Yeah, Nancy, I don't know what's going on there, but somebody said Patti needs you in the room right now. Yeah, Nancy, I'm gonna need you to come with me and go to the room. Oh, Elliot and Nancy, oh, y'all hanging out? Yo, we're having game night. Come play game night. Well, we don't want to play games. We want to go make out and have sex in the hallway. Yeah, we don't really care. We need y'all over here at game night. Come on, let's go play game night. But Dr. Ben, nah, Dr. Ben was like, hey, it looks like y'all are about to do something that's a really bad idea, but I'm gonna go ahead on and mind my business. I'm gonna go ahead on and mind my business. Not the type of doctor I want around. Here's AJ Ruley, the Ways to Human that's in your chat, talking to that same Casey, Caitlin Chloe. Yeah, that's Casey Gleason. So here's AJ Ruley saying to Casey Gleason and Drew Beckius. Remember I told you Drew Beckius had all this in his Facebook thread, but Drew Beckius is afraid of Casey Gleason and John Gleason, so Drew Beckius can't speak out about it. So literally this is AJ Ruley tagging Casey Gleason saying, Casey Gleason, pay attention to what I'm about to say to Drew. And then that's also their way of letting Drew know, hey, Drew, what I'm saying to you, hey, I'm making sure your bosses, I'm forwarding this message to your bosses. Hey, Drew, I'm letting your boss, Casey and John Gleason, know that I'm tagging you right now. And then she says, I also want to add that Nancy's original statement says she gave no consent and that Elliot dragged her outside forcefully and it all happened there at once. Evidence does not indicate that. And then she initiated the advances. People witnessed her kissing him publicly and very visibly at times against his will. The same witnesses saw them walking outside willingly, come back in, fixing themselves, go back to the bar, and then continue the PDA and attempting to head to Nancy's room via the stairs. And then check this out. She tags Arden Hart. She says, hey, at Arden Hart. Hey, Torben Hamilton. Hey, Glenda Jordan. Was it one of you who testified that Nancy told you she wanted to take Elliot to her room? So now she's calling for it explicitly. Arden, Ben, Glenda, did one of y'all tell us Nancy wanted to fuck Elliot that night and take him back to her room with her sister and daughter? I don't want to get the wrong information here. And then she says, so her claim that she had not given consent is questionable here. I'm not questioning whether she withdrew it, by the way. She has a right to withdraw consent at any time. So this is literally AJ saying, well, she says she never consented to any of this. But if she was all over him, making out with him in the lobby, making everybody uncomfortable, then she can't consent. She can't say she didn't consent to any of this because she had to consent to at least some of this. And that's AJ Ruley. And again, she's now leading the conference safety issues at Nanocon. Here comes Glenda Jordan, another speaker at Nanocon.
I think that should probably be the overall goal of the whole, like, I think what you're doing by bringing this whole thing up and talking about it. And there's obviously a lot of people who are in the chat and have all kinds of different views on this, but I think the idea is you don't want it to happen again. Like you don't want somehow somebody to be put in a situation where they could be hurt and traumatized and pushed downstairs or, whatever happened. Somehow this woman's covered in bruises and we need to know, like, something happened. She's covered in bruises. There's marks also apparently on Elliot. And so there's that. So.
Yeah. And again, they just want you to shut this down. They want this to go away. They want this to stop. They know their bad behavior is being exposed. And I largely just ignore them because they really just want to distract people and get people to not pay attention to the evidence that's right in front of them. So pay attention to the evidence that's right in front of you. Here's Glenda Jordan saying, I feel compelled to share my thoughts. I sincerely hope you can remain open and receptive, as this obviously is a charged situation. I don't even know where to start with that YouTube video, from the violent threats, remember the Rocky quote, to the constant misogynistic slurs. Remember the woman calling out all the women, including the cis and trans women. So that's the misogyny. The violent threats is the Rocky quotes, and the misogynistic slurs was a woman calling out all the women for not standing with women. Anyway, it was difficult to get through. I will start with Patti's claim that Nancy was just flirty. That's not what I personally witnessed, right? She's saying, hey, she wasn't just flirty. That's not what I saw. I genuinely almost got up from my table outside to intervene on behalf of SR because she was so aggressive and handsy with him, and he was turning his head to avoid French kissing. Later, they left together hand in hand, every indicator of going to enjoy a consensual experience together. And I even texted a friend at the time to that effect, noting relief. It seemed mutual and not just Nancy pursuing one-sidedly. So notice how this is all before the stairwell. And then notice how they're not intervening. They're not texting SR, say, hey, you okay? Do you want this with Nancy? Because she seems a little aggressive right now. They're also not testing Nancy. Hey, Nancy, seems like you're coming on a little strong to SR right now. What's going on over there? Instead, they're texting each other. Sounds more like gossip than
How did you get
safety.
what is that you have, right? Like, where did you get these
writings? This is from Drew Beckius' Facebook thread. This is remember I told you Drew Beckius posted a Facebook thread and everybody dogpiled them. Yeah, this is the flying monkeys, the same ones that are in your chat right now. The same way they're dogpiling me and you to not finish this conversation, they're dogpiling Drew to not allow.
And Drew is the husband of Stacy, and
who
Stacey's
found
the
him
person.
Exactly, SJ. So imagine this. Imagine you found your friend after being assaulted, right? Mm-hmm. You're upset, right? You tell your husband about it, I'm sure. So now your husband, you would think, is really upset about it, right? Mm-hmm. Now, later on, the sister of the victim and a bunch of other whistleblowers come forward and do a stream saying this happened and the community's been trying to cover it up. So now your husband sees that and posts a link on his Facebook to say, hey, look, people are talking about that assault where my wife found the victim afterwards. And then they all get into his Facebook thread and they're dogpiling and victim blaming and slut shaming the victim in the Facebook thread of the husband of the woman that found her. Yeah, why would he let that happen? Imagine, why would your husband, after you found your friend after this assault, why would your husband allow all of this victim blaming and slut shaming of your friend in his Facebook thread?
I think what I think people, and I'm hoping these people in the chat take this stuff seriously, is
they don't.
You guys have to look at, she obviously was covered in bruises and she fell down some stairs, and so did Elliot, fell downstairs too. And so I don't get, and she says that he pushed her down the stairs and he actually apologized to her. I think it's possible he forgot some of the stuff that he did. He might have blacked out because he was by everybody's account, he was, and that doesn't mean he's not guilty, but it just means that he might genuinely not recall what he did that night. And so there could be some of that kind of stuff just to think about. But the other thing is, she immediately told people, like, this isn't like she's fabricating this stuff back in when she wrote the 10-page thing in February. She immediately told Stacy and she immediately told her sister what had happened to her right there at the conference. So, I mean, somebody has to take that seriously.
They don't. They absolutely do not. So she says, I don't like publicly sharing that information because as the detailed screenshots have been shared here, this was apparently all in the investigation and report that happened. Although again, that will be private information that we need to hear from Nancy, right? So notice how they always have to hear more from Nancy. And again, their line here in December is that Patti doesn't have Nancy's permission to be telling her story, which again, she does. Nancy cut them off in September. But they're counting themselves as the Nancy safety team. They're saying, hey, based on what she told us in August and September, she didn't want any of this to be out there. Again, we're ignoring them because we didn't start talking about this until December. Patti let us know she absolutely had Nancy's permission to be telling her story. Nancy's letter confirmed Patti had Nancy's permission to be telling her story. And again, I have heard personal thank yous from Nancy on multiple occasions. The most recent time literally being less than a week ago. I received a video, a voice message from Nancy thanking me personally thanking the other whistleblowers personally by name. Nancy thanked us. Nancy thanked us. Nancy thanked us. Now they're going to say I got to prove it, but I don't. Notice how they want to talk about respecting the victim's wishes, respecting the victim's privacy, but now they're going to turn around and do what? Demand that I publicly share her private conversation that was shared with me privately. Right? Because I have to prove it. If I don't play the voice recording of them to them of hearing Nancy thank me, then it never happened. Because they want people to pretend it's impossible. It's impossible that she gave her sister permission to say, yeah, please share this message with them. I want Jay and Kyle and PC and Sumami and Trees and Rebekah from Faith Exposed to know, hey, I really appreciate what y'all are doing. Yeah, let them know. Oh, well, can I share it on YouTube? Yeah, no, I don't care about the YouTubers. Yeah, I'm not interested in YouTube. So you can share it with them, but yeah, I don't want you to put this conversation on YouTube. Okay, sis, got it. Click. And so what did Patti do? Hey, Nancy wanted me to make sure y'all hear her appreciation in her voice and her own words. Here it is. Please don't share it publicly. So that's what I did. I am telling you. I received a video, an audio recording of a phone call from Patti and Nancy, where Nancy thanks myself and the other whistleblowers by name. And again, what's the response? Jay's a liar. Jay's a liar. If it's true, prove it. If it's true, prove it. If it's true, prove it. You see that? You see that, right? They're in your chat demanding that I violate her consent.
Yeah, I just it's sad. This whole thing is so sad. It's so sad. I mean, it's just I feel terrible.
But SJ, this is great. SJ, this is great.
Yeah. It's been great.
This is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for your audience to see them behaving this way in real time. So now your audience knows exactly what time it is. Please continue to show yourselves over here. Show the Christians your character. Show the Christians what victim blamers and smear campaigners you really are.
I just can't figure out what they're saying. That, I mean, when you look on the other side, I guess I can think about it. Some people think, oh, maybe, she wanted it, like she wanted to be beat up and pushed downstairs. I mean, I don't know how you can, like, what, or maybe they're saying she fell. I mean, maybe they don't believe that whole thing about being pushed downstairs. Maybe they think she fell down the stairs or something, so I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where they're coming from, that they seem so adamant about this other side, and why they're defending Elliot so much. Like what evidence did Elliot show them that his side, or whatever his account is of the story, is true? Because he did apologize to her, is my understanding.
Yeah, there's no scrutiny of Elliot. They don't want to scrutinize Elliot. They want to defend Elliot. They want to say he protected her. They want to say that they both fell. They want to say that the bump on her head is because they were making out roughly in the hallway, and he accidentally bumped her head against the wall when they were making out roughly, and the strangulation was failed BDSM and all this other stuff. But the reality is they're covering for their own behavior. They're covering for the fact that they were part of this unhealthy response. Now, to me, they should have just said, we didn't know better. They should have just said, yeah, when she first told us the story, she wanted to keep it under wraps. Yeah, we were trying to be good friends to her, so we respected her wishes to keep it under wraps, and that's what we did. And now we would say that, oh, well, you know what? Eventually she cut us off, whether it was to save her marriage or work on her marriage or heal, or she just didn't want to be friends with us anymore. We don't really know. But again, it's personal to them now, because now it's very clear that Nancy's coming out and they're not on Team Nancy, but they've been running around telling the whole world that they're Team Nancy. So now they're mad because Nancy has revealed to everybody that they're not really Team Nancy. Now, what they really should have done is they should have just said, hey, maybe we dropped the ball on this one. Now that we see Patti coming forward with these other whistleblowers, now that they're showing receipts that this is Nancy's story, and that Patti have been trying to contact organizations and content creators. Hey, look, we're seeing the error of our ways. We're seeing the sincerity of Nancy's story. We're seeing the sincerity of Patti. Let's change. If you go back and watch the original streams we did, and even after the letter and various points, we keep coming out. We kept saying to people, we're not asking people to harass people. We're not asking to cancel people. We're not asking people to blow the whole thing up. We said it over and over and over again. Take this as an opportunity to change course. Whatever you were saying about Nancy and Patti and the whole situation yesterday, leave that alone. Leave it alone. Get a clean slate. Get a clean slate. Just say, I decided today. And I'm going to ask your audience to do the same thing. Go down in that link. Go down in that description. Read Nancy's 10-page notarized statement. Show me what it means to you to believe victims. Read that woman's 10-page notarized statement, then show me what it means to you to believe victims. And decide that as of today, as of when you read that woman's 10-page notary statement, you're going to believe Nancy until you get overwhelming evidence to the contrary. And then what you do is whatever you said before that, leave it alone. And even these flying monkeys, just change course. Y'all are wrong. Everybody can see it. I'm sitting here with S.J. Thomason. You know, Patti sat down with Rebekah Davis from Bread of Life. They read Nancy's notarized statement. They read AJ's 30 plus pages of nonsense. They've looked at the situation closely. Stop pretending that you're the only people who can read.
Yeah, this whole thing is very, very sad. And I read it, and I read it with the idea of, I'm not going to come out and say there's certain things that I can say and certain things I won't say about the situation, because there is the case that, so what I tried to do is look at what are the facts of the situation. They both fell down the stairs. There's certain things like that. Something obviously horrific happened, and how exactly that came about. Unfortunately, there's no film that can show us exactly what happened in that stairwell, but she immediately started saying things that she found, to support what she wrote in that letter, that 10-page letter, but she immediately relayed that information to Stacy and to her sister. And so it's not like this is something that she created over a period of months and all that kind of stuff. And I think the fact that she's married is probably why there seems like some inconsistencies, because she probably doesn't feel comfortable mentioning all of the things that also maybe additionally happened that night. So that's what I see. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I will say again, and they're doing the groupthink mob mentality thing, right? It's all about the numbers to these people. Since the coercive effort and the smear campaigning and the harassment has made people afraid to speak out, has made people afraid to come forward. Because no of the larger content creators are coming forward, because none of the organizations are coming out, it's allowing these people to run around and say, well, everybody agrees with us. The whole community is on our side. Only Jay and his rabid crew of bigots are on Team Nancy. Only a handful of small, tiny content creators that nobody cares about, right? So since we're the people and we don't have the power, since we have small channels and we don't have tens and hundreds of thousands of subscribers, they're able to just dehumanize us and just dismiss us. We're nobody, right? Because we're not Matt Dillahunty, because we're not Seth Andrews, because we're not Genetically Modified Skeptic, because we're not Rationality Rules, because we're not Holy Kool-Aid, because we're not Brandon from Mindshift, because we're not The Line, because we're not the Atheist Community of Austin, because we're not Skeptic Haven, because we're not all the people that matter, right? Because we're not all the people that matter, because we're not all the people that matter. Ignore us, because everybody believes them. It's not that everybody believes them. It's that everybody is being coerced into silence, and the power structure has turned on this woman, and the community pressure and effort to dogpile her has been successful. But listen, to make sure that they don't get what they are looking for, let me take you through some of these receipts for your audience, because I know they're trying to stop us from getting through them.
Okay. And listen, I think I can go till 5 o'clock because I'm supposed to, we're going out to my son a little meal.
Perfect. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no
all right. So then she says, it has nothing to do with me. It feels invasive on Nancy's behalf. But if all these claims are going to be screamed out on this YouTube video, I feel compelled to address the ones I happen to have personal information about. I've been involved in various progressive communities for decades now. I've seen this phenomenon happen multiple times. An incident occurs and a boundary is violated. The people involved work it out and reach resolution. But someone decides they're going to make this their own personal crusade and wave around the victim's trauma for their own benefit and center on themselves. It's virtue signaling to a degree that there needs to be a different word for it. It's so harmful and disgusting as, again, it utterly bulldozes over the victim. From the screenshots shared here, Nancy is not being consulted for this. Where is she? Did she consent to this video? This is such an egregious violation of her privacy and her wishes for what she wanted. As others have pointed out with receipts that I don't hardly have the words for how violating this feels. If someone did this to me after an incident, I don't even know how I'd manage. I'm so concerned for Nancy, and this video, again, is such a disgusting violation. At the bar, Nancy expressed sexual desires and private information with me that has direct bearing on what happened. And while that context matters, I will not be sharing those details here, as it would be unethical to do so without her consent. I'm a rape and sexual assault survivor, multiple incidents. I've had failed scenes, been bruised and violated and traumatized. There are people out there that foam at the mouth at being able to proceed on behalf of victims that do nothing but further violate them and center themselves. That is not victim advocacy. You are not making spaces safer. The idea that we wouldn't metaphorically chuck SR off a cliff. Notice how their language can be artistically violent, but it's understood to not be a threat when they do it. The idea that we wouldn't metaphorically chuck SR off a cliff based on the way it was framed in this YouTube video is absurd. We would absolutely cut all ties. We've done so on numerous occasions for people we love, trusted, and respected for far less. I believe you are coming from a place of justice and kindness. I trust and believe that your desire is to decrease harm, but that is not what is happening here. So then again, so this is like I've been telling you, this is again AJ summoning and checking in with KC and letting Drew know, hey Drew, I'm checking in with your boss. Hey Arden, hey Ben, hey Glenda, was it one of you that testified Nancy wanted to take Ellie to her room? I don't want to give the wrong information. So she's summoning Arden, Ben, and Glenn, and look who shows up. Here's Glenda. Sorry, Arden, Ben, and Glenda. Here's Glenda responding to the call. Here's Arden Hart responding to the call at Glenda Jordan. I just want to second everything said here by Glenda. I was also at the table and witnessed everything alongside her, and my recollection was exactly the same. I haven't been following the fallout super closely after the fact, but that's what I saw. I would probably have believed Nancy and taken Nancy's word for it if I hadn't witnessed what I did myself. I would probably have believed and taken Nancy's word for it if I hadn't witnessed what I did myself. I would probably have believed and taken Nancy's word for it if I hadn't witnessed what I did myself. You can decide if I'm lying or if this is Arden Hart being asked to join in the slut shaming and the victim blaming, and Arden Hart responding to the call. Here's Dr. Ben, again, Elliot's good buddy. I was at the table with Glenda Jordan and Arden Hart, and remember the same. I haven't had the energy lately to weigh in because I don't think I can articulate my thoughts very well. So we start with Bree, who was Dr. Ben's roommate, triangulating. I believe Ben. Elliot and Nancy were wasted, making out and heavy petting in the common area, making everyone uncomfortable. And then she says, I'm fully willing to believe Ben on this. Arden Hart told me the same thing. So that's one person triangulating Arden and using Arden and Ben, and she lived with Dr. Ben at the time. Then AJ Ruley calls for another triangulation. This time we're not on Discord, we're on Facebook. And she says, Arden, Ben, Glenda, didn't y'all say she wanted to fuck Elliot? And here comes Glenda, here comes Arden, here comes Dr. Ben, right? And then we get this. Here's John Gleason from Godless Engineer. I don't know, man. I felt your response was a womp womp. You shared a video where nearly everyone in this comment section is described as a flying monkey. Now you know why. That helped protect the dangerous predator, because they did. Some of whom were directly named. Now he sticks up for his wife. He says, Casey and I were brought up in live chat as being responsible. So, like, I get that you want to have a wider conversation about this, but this video ostracizes those that actually put Nancy's wishes first. We actually sought to protect her and respect her. Again, we said they were part of facilitating the communication between them during this period of time when he should not have had communication with her. And so they take this all personally, but listen, it just is what it is. She had the victim had communication with the assailant during an inappropriate time, and y'all were part of facilitating that communication. And again, you're currently being accused of being flying monkeys because you keep now saying that Nancy and Patti are lying. So he says, so I get that you want to have a wider conversation about this, but you're looking over the people who actually put her first. We actually sought to protect her and respect her, yet this video seems to indicate that's not what we did. It's a gross mischaracterization, and you know this if you bothered to look to even look at the text messages. Seems like you didn't, though, because none of us are saying something didn't happen. None of us are saying that mistakes weren't made. So framing your response as if we are is disingenuous. You don't address how those disparaged in the video were actually putting Nancy first until her husband found out and her narrative changed completely, right? Blaming it on the husband. Then what seems like under duress, right? Then what seems like under duress and pressure from both her husband and Patti, right? Blaming it on the husband and the sister, that she filed charges that almost resulted in false police report charges. And he says that there's evidence proving this. You can see in the links in my description, you can see the email that was sent to Elliot that explores, that says he has the option and what he would need to do, but there's no evidence or indication that they actually suggested that those charges be filed. In the end, and again, if there was video evidence proving that she was lying, then why not file the charges? And then why run around saying that this woman is trying to ruin this man's life by claiming these false charges, and then she turns around and gets those same false charges notarized? See, this is what we mean when we say that they weren't expecting the 10-page notarized letter. They thought they could bulldoze and control this whole narrative. They weren't expecting her to come out with that 10-page notarized letter. In the end, this video and your response comes across like, I know better than Nancy about what she experienced, what she needs, and I think everyone should be talking about the thing that happened to her instead of respecting her wishes. Again, Drew, I think a more reflective response to the real evidence versus the video is warranted here. I get you want to have a conversation on consent, but SR respected her consent, even stupid drunk. As far as transphobia, the TERF tsunami listed off some women, including trans women, and said they weren't women. Maybe re-listen to the bio you shared. And then he emailed me that night. This is an email, Godfather Engineer, sent to me directly. Jay, before you do your stream tonight, you should know that Nancy and Patti are lying. Right there. You should know that Nancy and Patti are lying. You should know that Nancy and Patti are lying. You should know that Nancy and Patti are lying.
So wait, why do you think, like with I mean, I'm just thinking about some of the other stuff. Yeah, I mean, everybody, they say that they witnessed it, like Arden Hart saying, hey, I witnessed it, I believe. But what they're saying is everybody witnessed the before and the after. Nobody witnessed the stairwell, right? I mean, has anyone said they witnessed the stairwell?
No,
and that's where the whole incident is. So like when you say, hey, I saw the whole thing. Well, no, you didn't, because what she's saying in her letter is that Elliot turned on her. Like it was a different Elliot than she had encountered before. Like he seemed like he'd changed his ways, and she said he was very angry and his eyes were very black. And so there was that. That's what she's saying. So and then they saw the after, and some saw her after and said she was disheveled and she was unable to speak. And then she told Stacy and her sister the story. So I mean, to me, those also were there. They witnessed it too. So like, why aren't people taking their accounts into account when
because nobody else was in that stairwell. Nobody else was in their stairwell. But look, here's important information. They do keep claiming that there's video evidence that proves it didn't happen. So here's a message from Ember Belrad saying, I was 100% ready to drive to Indiana to see if Nancy was okay, because the immediate concern was that her husband had found out and become violent with her. Then some additional facts came to light. There's a lot, so I'll get right to the most important part. There's hotel security camera footage. The story isn't true. So again, in order for there to be hotel security camera footage that it isn't true, it have to be of the stairwell. But what they're really trying to say is that they can piece together based on what they saw in the lobby. They haven't seen, first off, we know there were no cameras in the stairwell, and I'll show you that in a second for your audience. But they are basically trying to say, maybe, I guess they saw cameras in the lobby when they were there. So they're trying to say, oh, there's video of what they saw in the lobby. And now what they're trying to say is we can base it on them leaving together, them coming back in together, them both being disheveled, them both having fallen or whatever, that now we don't need video evidence. We can just piece together based on what we observe that she's not telling the truth. So they played this game about the video evidence in the stairwell. And then when that game fell through, they shifted the goalpost. Oh, now we're not saying that there's evidence in the stairwell. Now we're not even saying you need evidence of the stairwell. Now we're saying we can just piece together based on what we saw in the lobby that she's lying. But again, for the record, here's Maya, their queen goddess, saying, hi, Jay, is your stream about SR? If so, I'm really concerned that you don't have all the information. This is real. And then what does she do? She triangulates. She sends me a message from KC Gleason from Caitlin Chloe, right? You know who Caitlin Chloe was? Same Caitlin Chloe, Casey Gleason. It is serious when someone files a false police report about sexual assault and video evidence proves they lied. Again, the only way there could be video evidence that proves she lied is if it's video evidence in the stairwell. So this is, again, their smear campaign. By the way, these type of smear campaigns are illegal. I hope your audience looks into that. I've covered that on my channel, but please pay attention to that. Please check out the videos on my channel. But you can look up, smear campaigns are illegal, and you'll find a lot of good content about the crimes involved. All right, so this is Marion from Misinterpretation saying there's been a full investigation complete with video from the hotel, and SR has been completely exonerated of any wrongdoing. Again, charges not being filed is not the same as being exonerated and saying that there was no wrongdoing. And when you're saying there's been a full investigation complete with video from the hotel and SR has been completely exonerated, you are at least implying that the video evidence was part of his exoneration, and we know that it wasn't. Here's a message I got from AJ myself. She said both the Nanocon and the police investigations included not just witness testimonies, but also video footage from the hotel. You can't fake that evidence. Again, another claim about video footage and the evidence, and it's evidence so good you can't fake it. And then here she is in that same Facebook thread that I've been showing you, responding to D. Murphy. This is Stacy's mom. Stacy's husband's name is Drew, so it's Stacy and Drew Beckius. And then Stacy's mom's name is D. Murphy. So this is AJ Ruley reaching out to Stacy's mom, D. Murphy, saying, D. Murphy, nobody is asking to see video or for it to be made public. We are asking whether there were cameras in the stairwell to determine if the police closed the case based on concrete evidence. And this gives us a number of things. We know they've never seen that video evidence because it says nobody's asking to see it or for it to be made public. So you know they haven't seen it, you know it probably doesn't exist. Then when they say we're asking whether there were cameras in the stairwell to determine if the police closed the case based on concrete evidence, they're also saying we think the only way to really know for sure what happened in that incident would be for there to have been a camera in that stairwell. Because only if there's a camera in that stairwell would we be able to be sure that the police closed the case based on concrete evidence. So now you know they haven't seen it, but they're also not slick. And so now they're basically conceding anything that happened in the lobby, irrelevant. Anything that happened after the stairwell, back in the lobby or back in the hotel room, irrelevant. The only concrete evidence that would be able to be used to decide all the way up, thumbs up, or all the way down, thumbs down, would be the concrete evidence provided by video in that stairwell. And boy, what do I have for you here? Here's a message directly from the victim to her sister saying, hey, Pat, that's Patti, the other half of the Apostate Sisters, got bad news. The district attorney made a decision on the case, and he said there wasn't enough evidence along with too many conflicting stories. Where would those conflicting stories come from if there were only two people in that stairwell and no video footage? So then she says the sheriff said all they had was video from the bar. The sheriff said all they had was video from the bar. The sheriff said all they had was video from the bar, where apparently I was just all over him, making it look very bad in my favor. Now, notice the date on this message. It's September 10th. September 10th. Now, what does she say about these same flying monkeys? She says, glad they're all having entertainment at my expense. Hope I never hear from any of them ever again. So they're all trying to tell you they're Team Nancy, but here is Nancy on September 10th. She's very distraught about the results, telling you she hopes she never hears from these people ever again. And then she says, I'm sure Elliot's on cloud 9. He just got away with assault. Right. And then this is her sister saying, well, Stacy literally found you distraught. Stacy literally found you distraught. Stacy literally found you distraught. And you told me everything right away in the morning. Like, why would you make something like that up? I think they think you were into it and then made it up to cover your tracks or something. She says, disgusting. And she says, yeah, being strangulated and pushed down the stairs feels so good. Again, this is the victim in her own words. Being strangulated and pushed down the stairs feels so good. What a mess. And then she says, he's going to do this again. I know he will. He's a woman beater and a master manipulator. And then the sister says, and even if you fully intended to fuck him or something, that doesn't make it the violence okay. She says, exactly. And she says, not sure if you're feeling the same way, but I'm really distraught over this legal decision. It makes me so angry, hurt, and helpless. Like, how are victims supposed to protect themselves? And how do we actually stop these things from happening? I feel like I'm being ripped apart in all directions, and like my voice is completely useless. Liars shouldn't win like that. And I just want to be clear. I do talk a lot of crazy noise on my channel. Like I said, we have a very pro wrestling style presentation. There's one more thing I actually think your audience needs to see real quick.
I think it's also just mentioning that she has a fear that this could be repeated by Elliot again. And I hope that for that conference, do you know if he's going to that conference or he's speaking at that conference?
They told me he won't be speaking there for at least a year. So I don't imagine he'll be there this year. I'm not sure though. One of the things I will say though is that how do I say this? Yeah, I don't think he'll be. What did you ask me before? Sorry, I lost. I thought I was looking for this.
No, I mean, I was wondering if Secular Rarity is going to be at the conference coming up at the
No,
Nanocon.
I don't think he'll be at the conference this year, but I don't know. We were told that part of the quote unquote accountability was that he won't be speaking there for a year. He stepped down from some volunteer positions, and I guess apparently he's getting some help. Let me see if this is what I think it is.
You know, I'm not going to name names, but there was a very big case a few years ago that came out in the atheist community, which was one of the atheists was married, and the wife of the atheist went off with some other guy, and then they did some sex that was very violent, and she ended up full of bruises and stuff like that. And then the original atheist and his wife divorced, and that all happened, and that kind of blew up in the community. And so I think maybe that's what people are coming into. And is this Bree?
Yeah, I think your
Bree's
audience
here
needs to
in
hear
the chat.
this.
I reached out to Bree because I feel bad for Bree.
I have things to say. I have my own, and you being like, oh well, AJ already wrote this story out, so we know how you don't need to include this part. Yeah, well, I don't agree with AJ's version of the story. I don't agree with the way AJ tried to coerce me into changing mind again over days and days and days. I don't agree with how Hell's Bells here, who just popped into the chat just now, told me that if I come forward with my story, that it's gonna change my dynamic in the community. That basically, yeah, you're gonna be shunned, Bree. If you come forward with this, you're gonna be shunned.
I just want to say, because I know you got to go, that this type of thing is illegal. And myself, along with the other whistleblowers, we continue to be victims of this ourselves. People are lying about us. People are harassing us. We've been blacklisted. We've been blackballed. People are constantly trying to get me fired for covering this. I have advisors who are in distress because, one of my advisors, for instance, one of my colleagues committed suicide about a month or so ago now. And, in addition to grieving his former lab manager committing suicide, he's now getting emails, saying that I'm threatening people's lives because of Rocky quotes. So I just want your audience to understand a couple of things. One, what happened to Nancy was tragic, but what has happened since has revealed a deep structural rot in the entire secular humanist / atheist online space, to the point that the victim sister is recommending that people no longer even engage in that space, and certainly that they don't support any of these organizations or any of their events. And I would like to join her in my support that people essentially get out of the atheist online secular humanist space and do not support any of their organizations or events while this toxic community structure remains in place. Also, I do think there has been a hypersexualization of the culture around NanoCon, and that is leading to even less safety and less accountability around safety issues. Third, I think there is a coercive structure. I joke on my channel that secular humanism online is really a church controlled by a mob, run by a sex cult. But that is, this is what we're hearing about. We're hearing about, every time there's all these smear campaigns, there's this couple that's always in the middle of it. People are afraid to speak out about other people. When people do speak out, they're getting blacklisted, they're getting deplatformed. If they're mods and commenters, they're having all their wrenches taken from them. They're getting kicked out of Discords. They're losing opportunities. They're having appearances canceled. So there's clearly a coercive power structure that's very active in that play. And then we say it's controlled by a sex cult because, again, we're hearing partner swapping. We're hearing people are leaving conferences because people are propositioning them to sleep with their spouses. We're hearing at multiple conferences, there's a sign that says orgy room on the door. Now, some people are saying that's a joke, but what's the joke? Right? We're doing couples comedy. We're doing hula hoop fire dances. We're doing on Skeptic Haven. We're doing advertisement. Hey, get your charm alarms. We're doing polyamory classes, deviant sex education. Right? Like it just feels, like I said, churchy. Like all they really do is anti-Bible. They're not out there making the world a better place. They're not out there doing anything in the streets. They're not actually out there tackling the real world issues. They're not really taking down the institutional issues. They're not really platforming educated people. They're not really platforming scholars. They're not really educating their population in anything that really matters. And when they do, it's a bunch of amateurs. It's the blind leading the blind. Because again, if you had to have real credentials, if you had to actually really be an educator in certain things, then they would be out of the game. So again, the priests are never going to put themselves out of business. The priests are never going to say, to qualify for the priesthood, you have to have qualifications I don't have. And I say this to Christians the same way I say this as atheists. The priests are never going to say, you have to have qualifications I don't have to enter the priesthood. And it is the same thing on the secular humanist side. They will never say that you have to have credentials and qualifications that they themselves do not have to be part of the influencer club, because that would be pricing themselves out of a job. So please understand there's a lot of danger over there. And I cannot thank you, SJ, enough for taking this seriously, for answering that call. And let me say this to both sides. I want the Christians to hear this. I want any secular humanists or atheists that are listening to hear this. You see how I've been out there constantly trying to bring awareness to this. You see all the effort that Patti's put in. You see all the effort the whistleblowers put in. You see all the effort the victim put in. You see the victim finding the strength to write a 10-page notarized letter and sending it to her sister and saying, go ahead and make this published. So we have been begging and pleading and trying to drag the secular atheist community, kicking and screaming, to just face what happened to that woman and let's get serious about it. But we didn't have to do that with the Christian apologist. We didn't have to do that with S.J. Thomason. And we didn't have to do that with Rebekah Davis from Bread of Life. All we said is something really, 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 really bad happened to our friend. We know we don't agree about religion. We know we probably don't agree about politics. Yeah, Rebekah told you in her video, me and Jay have had a healthy back and forth for years, okay? Hasn't always been great. We ain't always been on the same page. But at the end of the day, we're YouTube neighbors. And we can set all that aside. We can set all that aside. Thank you so much, SJ. That's all I want to say. I really appreciate it. We didn't have to beg you. We didn't have to drag you. We just had to ask.
I appreciate being on the I appreciate having you on the channel. And it's funny because you and I do have we have so many commonalities because we're both university professors, but yet we have many different views. Obviously, religion, politics, the two most contentious things that you can have different views on.
Yeah,
you and I are exactly the opposite on some of this stuff. But then all of a sudden, there's a person who just jumped in here, and I'm just going to say this really quickly because I do have to go. But Ruby Spacek was on my channel. I was on Modern Day Debate debating her a long time ago about should sex work be basically, I forgot, it wasn't criminalized, but it was decriminalized, destigmatized. And I said it should be stigmatized, and she said it should be destigmatized. And now she, over these years since then, she's completely changed her political and her religious views. And she's very much in alignment with with my political and religious,
Wow.
and I don't know about my political views so much, but definitely my religious views. And
Sure.
so you never know. Like, and I've changed my views because I used to be a liberal leaning Democrat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, now I'm conservative. I don't label.
We got
I'm a
follow-up
conservative
conversations to have.
Independent. Yeah, I'm independent though. I do have to point that out.
I see.
So
I see.
I don't want to take either side right now. It's a little too much.
Yeah. No, and just to reinforce that, I'll say we can't change each other's minds when we won't talk to each other. And if every conversation we have, all we're doing is looking for those disagreements or looking for those roadblocks that we already know we have, then we're wasting our time. But if we can set some of those things aside, we can come together and work together. And then when we work together, once we get safe together, we can revisit some of those really meaningful disagreements. But now they're not fights. Now they're not arguments. Now we already are working together. So we already know we're going to work together, and we already know we can continue to work together. So now those conversations are not about looking for disagreements because we don't want to work together. We're already working together. Let's revisit those disagreements to see if they can help us work together even better.
Exactly. Well, thank you. So just for the chat, you guys, thank you, everybody. I know that there's some hostility in the chat. I really honestly wish that all of you one day, that if I don't meet you now or in real life, that I meet you one day in heaven, because I fully believe in heaven, and I really think we all want to get there. Deep down, we all want to get there.
Hey,
that's
if
all.
there is a heaven, I hope I get there, and I hope to see you there too, SJ.
Yeah, exactly. I hope I'm there myself.
I'm with it. Hey, if I'm wrong about that, hey, I hope I make it in somehow.
Yes, amen. All right. Well, thank you guys. You have a great day. And just remember, whether you eat, drink, or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Have a great day. So let me end the stream.